What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time for new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to the Dahlia's character trailer, The Final Note. I am very excited about this because we really don't know that much about the Dahlia. We have a little bit from the Myriad Celestia trailer that introduced her a long time ago, and what we were told in the special program. She's at this interesting intersection where she's connected to a few key characters that we know. She's connected to a few different groups that she's abandoned, and from what I understand, she is now a cremator, which is also a group we ultimately don't know a ton about either. But it also seems like she's going to be helping us, even if it is for her own personal agenda. So what I'm really hoping for is to get a glimpse into what she's like, who she is, what her motivations may be. But if this is just sort of a hype show-off of her vibe, I also won't deny that, because that's usually what these trailers are for in the end. But with that all said, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and consider becoming a channel member if you want to support me just that little bit extra. Let's get into this. Okay.
My most ambitious child.
Starting with the line we know of her.
Exceptional child.
Okay.
More to teach you.
Curious. Ooh, the cut between. Black Swan.
Hide your desire for revenge.
Yep. Interesting.
Everything to go as planned. I need you to stay within my control.
Okay.
Darling.
We know they have a relationship of some kind.
Silence is preferred. Oh.
Is this just gonna be a fight between the two?
I'm not used to you being so rough with me yet.
Damn.
I'll try to be more gentle.
God.
Ran out
Interesting.
of tricks? Compared to being a good follower, I'm better as a lead.
Uh-huh, yeah. Okay. They're really playing a lot of elements that we're familiar with already.
Relax.
I love entering this dreamscape.
I'm very good at taking the initiative.
As two characters that manipulate memories, this is really fucking hype looking.
Tell me, in memory stores, who is the lead dancer?
Okay. I love Black Swan's claws trying to get her.
Well, that's surprising. Then dance one more time with me.
That fucking shot. Ooh, and then the rewind.
Back to the beginning again. Shall we? Let's. Farewell, my father.
Ooh, okay. An ongoing dance between the two of them she does not want to end. This trailer is very, very intriguing to me. They're definitely playing their cards close to their chest when it comes to the Dahlia or Constance, but there is some stuff we can gather here. We open with the lines from Duke Inferno shortly before his death to Constance. She was his most capable and ambitious child. He had nothing more to teach her. She had already outgrown him to a degree, and yet at his funeral, she cries. There was a connection there, or at least they want us to believe there was. When it comes to the cremators, we can never truly trust what we see. As manipulators of memory, far more so than even the Garden of Recollection, it is hard to say what is ever true, but I think there is some merit to this. She stands here, tears running down her face in the rain at this funeral. The words of acknowledgement and approval of Duke Inferno echoing in her head. But mixed within this are these brief intercuts of her smiling. Still tears running down her face, but she is smiling. It very much gives off the feeling that her emotions are complex and messy. If I were to make a guess based on what I know about the cremators, they are a group who manipulates memories to their own benefit. And with that in mind, paired with this kind of visual of constantly flickering emotion and mixed emotion, it leads me to the idea that when you play with memory, when you play with your own memory, manipulate it to what you want, your mental state is bound to get a little bit messy. Presumably, even she isn't capable of perfectly manipulating herself to feeling however she wants to feel. I imagine that whatever her true feelings on what really happened are bound to rise up in some form. So what this might be is a clashing of contradicting memory. Whether that be in some form where she manipulated her own memory to make herself feel better, but the underlying sadness is still there and cannot be escaped, or this is just a hint at a more underlying brokenness to her as a person, is hard to say, but I feel like the first possibility is at least worth acknowledging. But then in this swirl of contradictory emotion, of tears and concerning smiles, Black Swan appears, having found Constance, and claiming that underlying those tears is a desire for revenge. Is that what that smile was? An eagerness to achieve that revenge for Duke Inferno's death? Or is this a third emotion contradicting everything else? She has a sadness towards his death, a happiness that contradicts that sadness, whether implanted or just due to something off about her. And underlying that is this hidden desire for revenge. It leads to her being inevitably very unpredictable as a person, as perhaps she maybe doesn't even know her own intentions and wishes. Depending on how much she has messed with her own memory, that's possible. Of course, this is all speculation. We don't know if she has ever actually manipulated her own memory. We just know she is capable of manipulating memory. But Black Swan continues before Dahlia can respond. For everything to go as planned, I need you to stay within my control. She can't have Constance as a wild card messing up events, which inevitably leads me to that eternal flip-flop with Black Swan of how much does she know, how much has she planned, is she truly an ally? Of course, she's done a lot for us, she's helped us a lot. At the very least, I think it's safe to say her intentions are not directly opposed to ours, but it is possible that she has other intentions or a greater understanding. She may be the kind of person who is in a similar position to the Stelron Hunters of knowing far more of what is to come than they give off. But it also could be as simple as Black Swan and the Dahlia have a past, which we know is the case. And so when she became aware that the Dahlia was here on Penacony, Black Swan knew that she had to make sure she was where she could see her. Make sure that the Dahlia didn't do anything reckless. And ultimately, that is the thing that this interaction points to more concretely, is the relationship between Black Swan and Constance, the Dahlia. There's this tension here. Two masters of memory, one who tries to preserve them and one who tries to manipulate them, who presumably know each other well and yet are on opposing sides, or at the very least opposing intentions. And interestingly enough, it's a little detail here, but I think it once again points to this past relationship they have, whatever it may be. As this battle between them starts, this dance between them starts, Black Swan is holding a flower that is much more in line visually with the aesthetic of the Dahlia. But then once she throws it, it turns into one of her cards and becomes part of the Dahlia's art. It doesn't necessarily on its own tell us much, but the fact that Black Swan approaches holding a flower that is akin to that of the Dahlia's, and one of Black Swan's cards is part of the Dahlia's art, to me speaks to their connection of some kind, their relationship, at least in the past. It doesn't tell us what that relationship was, but that there was one. But the one thing I think we can be certain of about that relationship is that even to this day, the Dahlia thinks of Black Swan fondly. It seems that based on this interaction, Black Swan views the Dahlia as a potential danger or threat to the current circumstances, something that needs to be kept under control. But the Dahlia is all smiles, calling her darling. It ties into that almost yandere vibe that she has that I've mentioned before. I even theorized in the special program that it is possible the Dahlia has sort of this obsession with Black Swan, potentially. This misguided love, perhaps. Which, whether it truly reaches love or just a fondness or whatever, it does seem like that either the Dahlia is just generally a very playful person, or there is this perception of being close to Black Swan that is not necessarily shared. But it is ultimately hard to say, because I do not necessarily trust what the Dahlia says based on her capacity to manipulate memory, and I don't always trust what Black Swan says. But regardless of what their past relationships are, we can clearly tell that they've been through this kind of song and dance before, or at the very least, they're comfortable enough around each other to act playful, quip at each other a bit, in that almost scarily seductive way that Black Swan has done before, and now we see is something the Dahlia can do plenty well as well. Without even immediately fighting back, clearly enjoying this little dance they've started, the Dahlia jokes, "I'm not used to you being so rough with me yet." But this doesn't throw Black Swan off at all. She just follows up with, "I'll try to be more gentle." Like I said, this feels like a song and dance they've been through before. Or at the very least, they understand each other well enough to poke and prod at each other in these ways without actually really getting it under each other's skin. And whether that is because they are comfortable around each other enough to do that, or they are legitimately trying to get under each other's skin, but they know each other too well, who's to say? But it leads to this fight not feeling like a fight. And it's early on in this quote-unquote fight that the Dahlia briefly gets the upper hand, pulling Black Swan into a dip, which immediately leads me to think of her dance with Acheron. It may be a coincidence, but I feel like they are intentionally using similar imagery and ideas for Dahlia, given that she is this character related to the manipulation of memory. But it's in this that she states about herself, compared to being a good follower, compared to being the child of Duke Inferno, perhaps, compared to being on Black Swan's leash, I'm better as a lead, as she gets this creepy, very yandere-esque smile. But interestingly enough, I didn't pick up on it at first, on the first watch through, but we can see here in this moment, it looks like she has a symbol of some kind on her tongue. I'd be curious if we could get a better look at that to see what the symbol is actually of. But that's an interesting touch I didn't realize before. And it's here that we exit reality entirely, and their essentially dance begins for real. They continue to poke and prod at each other as reality falls apart around them, manipulating everything in this dream space. And it's here that we get really our first idea of this being more of a dance than a fight. The Dahlia asks Black Swan, in Memory's Storms, who is the lead dancer? All while Black Swan is just attacking, destroying things with these crystalline claws that we see in her burst. And Black Swan's only response is just, "Not you, it seems. You are no lead here." There's essentially this battle for dominance going on over dreams, over memories. Perhaps dominance against the other player in this dance. Who will be the lead in this dance? Will it be the Dahlia or Black Swan? The last time Black Swan attempted to take the lead in a dance, she found herself at Acheron's mercy. Will things be the same here with the Dahlia? And it does seem that in this moment, in this dance, Black Swan has been the winner, having caught and pinned down the Dahlia, which merely leads her to say, "What a surprise. Dance once more with me," as she reaches this level of essentially ecstasy that we see in her ult, only for us to rewind back to the beginning at the funeral. It leads to this idea that this is a dance that the Dahlia does not want to end, that Black Swan and the Dahlia have been doing for a long time. It's one of the main things that points me to this idea that Dahlia has almost an obsession with Black Swan, or at the very least this dance that they take part in. Whether it is Black Swan herself or just the thrill of the chase, this vying for dominance. Something about it the Dahlia loves, it would seem. But Black Swan is not a passenger in this. She is aware of what is occurring. She is the one to say, back to the beginning again. And when the Dahlia offers to begin anew, once again repeat this dance, Black Swan just accepts, lets. This is not a surprise for Black Swan. This is almost expected. This dance is far from ending. It really hones the focus of this trailer entirely into the Dahlia and her relationship with Black Swan, all without giving us many answers about it. Most of what I have said is essentially pure speculation still. We only briefly acknowledge her connection to Duke Inferno and her potential wish for revenge. It leaves us with most of our questions unanswered, but with intrigue to continue asking them. It's something that makes me very, very curious about her. But with that, there isn't necessarily too much more I have to necessarily say about it, so I'm going to leave things there. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, including Desaize, Pokelove, and Amorphosilica at the normal tier, and Kondo Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!